guys, give me some advice. Let me talk to you. Let me talk really candid to you. Okay, what do you want me to do for my participation as it pertains to Blachowicz, Ankalaev for the championship? Now, I'm not asking you this to be a condescending prick. I will admit that I will do that very thing sometimes, but I feel like I tell you. And moreover, I feel like when I tell you I'm not doing that I level with you. But what do you want me to do here? I mean, this is a pay-per-view. There's something to look forward to. We now have a world championship on the line. As of 2 days ago, this was coming up, but there was no world championship. I mean, it's the exact same thing. This is the same thing that was already going to happen. We're adding a couple rounds and putting a belt up. Do you want me to cover it? Because you did it before. 2 days ago, you didn't. You weren't interested in it. And I'm not looking to condescend to you. I couldn't get any momentum with Prohaska versus Glover. I was sitting over here talking about a make-believe rumor of Stipe versus Jon Jones and getting 5 times as many of you interested. And quite frankly, you guys weren't all that interested in that. I just want to know, so I'm not wasting my breath over here. Do you want me to tell you about the story? Do you want me to tell you how Ankalaev took Blachowicz championship opportunities away from him? It was a mean and vicious thing that Ankalaev did, even if he didn't do it on purpose, which I'm not convinced he did. But he did it, and it's an interesting story. Now they got something to fight about. Oh, and by the way, they're going to add a couple of rounds to it. Not only are they going to add a couple of rounds on pretty short notice, which is somewhat compelling, but they're now going to put a championship up. That's interesting to me, but I don't want to force it down your throat. And what happens when this whole thing's done? Right? Like you don't have to put on your Columbo rain cap to know this goes one of 2 ways. Blachowicz is either the champion or Ankalaev is the champion. So if Blachowicz is the champion, what do you want to see Blachowicz do after that? I understand this, right? And none of us are hiding that. This isn't the one. If this was the one, it would have been the main event in the first place. We understand it's not the one. So if Blachowicz wins, what would you like to see him do next that is the one? What would get you excited? And the other side of the coin, if Ankalaev wins, what would you like to see him do that would get you excited? And but please answer my question directly. Because I'm not asking you what would be the right fight. I'm not asking you, in your opinion, who should be the number 1 contender. I'm asking you what you would like to see him do. And sports can be tough. I mean, sometimes sports can be real tough, where what you think you're seeing in front of your eyes. And my father used to tell me, don't believe anything you hear and only half of what you see. But sports is an interesting concept for that. The NFL is wildly honest about what and who they are. They put it right in the name. They hide the whole scam in front of you. We are the National Football League. But the NBA does the same thing. They hide the scam right in front of you. We're the National Basketball Association. They've never said anything else. The players will claim to be world champions. The media will claim they're world champions. The owners will quickly buy all of the players' rings that say world champion, and nobody will contest it. The league itself didn't try to pull that caper. The league itself told you, this is the National League. You can't be a world champion. Did Cuba get to submit a team? Did the Germans get to send a team? Did the Russians get to say, it's either the world is welcome to enter it or it's not. And that doesn't have to stop at a national level. You can hold a state tournament. Every state does for every sport that's recognized in our nation. But you don't have to do a state tournament. You can hold a city championship. You get to pick the parameters, but I've only seen in football and baseball and basketball, I've only seen people try to make it bigger than it is. They're openly telling you this is a national championship. Boy, that's a big deal. Boy, that's a lot of territory. Whoa, you got to be pretty damn good to be a national champion. I say you're a world champion if you're not. Now, I don't want to have this debate back. I don't want to hear about it. I've heard this before. They go, well, who do you think Lithuania is going to send? I don't give a damn who Lithuania is going to send. They either had the right to send them and that had a right to compete, or you're not a world championship. That's my contention. But what do you do when you have a world sport that's really not? I mean, it really is not. They got something out there called the Winter Olympics. Okay, fine. So some guy's going to go downhill on skis. Now, that's pretty impressive. If you went up the hill, you'd have done something. But going down the hill, but this is a thing, and people will watch that. Who can go down the hill the fastest? It is a concept that is baffling to me. Because really, if you did it in reverse, all right, everybody say go, and now you got somebody's worked hard and proven it and can get up that hill fast. I don't want to begrudge that. What I'm sharing for you is if my child would like to go and be a downhill skier, my child doesn't have the same opportunity as somebody that lives in, say, Salt Lake, or somebody that lives in, say, Aspen. And there's a number of sports like that. If my child, my child would like to be a bull rider, he'd like to go out to Vegas for the national finals. He wants to be a bull rider. It's a little bit tough. I don't have any bulls. I just don't have them. I don't live on a farm. I don't have that. It would just be a tough thing. And the Olympics has to compensate for this, right? Because I'll use my sport. I'll use it of wrestling. But it is believed that for every top 10 in the world, 7 of the top 10 wrestlers in every weight class, both styles, that 7 of the best 10 are all from Russia. That is believed. There are rankings that will come out. That is believed within our sport. It might be true. I don't know because we haven't tested it, but that is what the belief is. So what the Olympics does, because that's a problem. If you get to any sport, including mine of wrestling, and you've got one country that's got gold, silver, and bronze, how do you declare yourself an international sport? How do you make the other countries interested? So as a way of doing that, you limit them. You tell the Russians you can only enter one guy. I don't care if you could win gold, silver, and bronze. I'm not even going to give you the opportunity. Send one of those guys. I'm going to then tell the rest of the world somebody else was the second best and somebody else was the third best. And this isn't conspiracy stuff that I'm laying out here. This is a reality right in front of you that's going on. You get to the Olympics, whoever's silver, you assume is the second best on earth, but that's not true. And we're here in the U.S., we're guilty of it too. We could go into a number of track and field events and win gold, silver, and bronze. We do. There's a number of track and field events where you can enter 2 athletes and we will get gold and silver. We will do it in the Olympics a number of times. We'll put 2 people on the stand. I'm just sharing for you, like it's a little bit different. There's a story. I don't know the numbers. I can't remember the numbers. That's the part that I'm throwing in here. But I will admit that I was in a sauna. There was a young guy in the sauna who wanted to be this great fighter, and he was signed to the UFC, and he had really short hair. His name was Khabib Nurmagomedov. This is many years ago, and Khabib is telling a story to somebody else. Now, if you're ever in a sauna, it's not a matter of I was eavesdropping. If somebody talks at us, everybody else hears us. So I was in the sauna. I didn't know these guys. I'm minding my own business. I suppose you would call it eavesdropping, but Khabib tells somebody else in the sauna. In Dagestan, where I live, we have 2,800 people. Of those 2,800, 18 are Olympic champions. Now, it's the 2,800 and the 18, where I can't remember what the numbers were, but it was insane. Do you know an Olympic champion? Have you ever met somebody, even if it was in passing, have you met somebody that has an Olympic gold medal? Most of you are saying no. Khabib lives not in what you would call a country, not what you would call a city, what you would call a village. It's so small. They got 18 Olympic champions. It is insanely impressive. And the best wrestling in the world, that's a broad stroke, but it is believed it comes from Dagestan. And a lot of people will go out there and they'll try to seek that out. Now, I cautioned the world in 2012, be very careful of the Russian invasion. If you're going to go into MMA and you're going to start bringing in all these Russian athletes, be careful. Make sure that that is the part of the world that you want to be involved because they're going to take over. And in 2012, that wasn't only from my understanding of judo, of freestyle and Greco-Roman wrestling. It wasn't just my understanding of that. I also had to do with boxing. The Klitschkos were red hot back then. The heavyweight division was completely dead. You couldn't sell a ticket unless you took it to Germany. They were a big deal in Germany. They say that about David Hasselhoff. I don't begrudge them for that. And don't think you have to correct me and tell me Ukraine, okay? I told you 2000. Go back. Go back. I just said you got to be careful. Any organization, anywhere you are, you want to make this an international event, go ahead. You want to bring guys in from all over the world, go ahead. If you sign the Russians, you better be ready for the Russians to take over, because what they're going to do. That's a rough and tumble group. And if you don't follow combat like I grew up in this. I watched this stuff. I knew 7 of the top 10 guys all coming from the same place. And it's not just the same place in Russia. You could narrow that down. You could bring it straight into Dagestan for an international event. So what do you want to do? I'm asking the question. You're going to put Ankalaev in a world title fight. You better know what. You good? You good? Another guy from Dagestan, another guy. And maybe that's all positives, right? I'm not finishing that thought. I haven't finished the thought and said what he's going to look like in a poster, who he's got something interesting going with, whether he's bilingual or not, whether somebody would recognize him if he walked in. I haven't done any of those things. I left all of that very ambiguous for you to fill in the blanks. I'm just asking you, are you ready for it? Are you ready to have yet another champion? It's an interesting concept. You certainly shouldn't shut him out. You shouldn't block him out. That's not what I'm supposing. But before you think I'm wrong and you think that I am heading in that direction, I'll tell you right now, it's what the Olympics does. The Olympics limps up so they don't take over. I mean, you better know this is a very real thing. And if you think that's dull or you think that's boring or they just want to go back and do the tribe and hang out in the sauna, it's a different thing. That's not what you would have. By example, from somebody from America. They are going to be more boisterous. They are going to be more flamboyant. They are much more likely to show up wearing a fur jacket in the front row. They're much more likely to be the guy at the party sitting on the couch wearing a lampshade. It's very Are you okay with that? Are you okay with straight line competition? Are you okay with just finding out who the best is? Or are you okay with someone that's just going to take it home and be really quiet about it? And he sees an honor. He sees a prestige in that. I'm not judging it. I'm telling you that I warned you in 2012. You let the Russians in, you better be ready for them to take over. Boxing did it. You could still hold events. You just had to take them to Germany. There's a way to do it. But Ankalaev, there's a very interesting proposition, and he's just one of many. And where do you go from here? Ankalaev went. Who does he fight next? Where does he go from here? Who's got a problem with him? Who's calling him out? Who's challenged him? Who has he responded to? Who has he ever had a problem with? Ankalaev's called one guy out in his entire life. In his entire life, he called one guy out, and it was Blachowicz. Oh, by the way, he got the match with Blachowicz. Now, that should have been a light that went on where he goes, whoa, there's a power in calling somebody out. I am 100%. But I assure you that light has not gone on. So where do you go from here? You playing checkers? You want to do one move at a time? You want to play chess? You want to get multiple moves at the time? You want to really find out who the best is? You want to give the gold, silver, and the bronze to everybody from the same country, more from the same region, more from the same village and hometown? You want to do this straight? Or you want to rig the deck? Call yourself the National Football League and have Sports Illustrated say you're world champions. All right, there's multiple ways to do it. I'm just sharing that you look at it. You understand what you're getting into. You got a plan for it. You got a way to go. Go ahead. But let's not hide from it. I told you in 2012, you let the Russians in, you're going to have an invasion. You let the Russians in, and now you've got an invasion.